The verdict of obedience of the Sharia court to the disobedient Muslim wife. This is a love story written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. Copyright. All rights are reserved. All characters in this book are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored on the driver system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs in a review to be printed in a newspaper, journal, or a school or a university magazines. This is a love story about three Muslim girls who are subjected to gross injustice, severe violence, and abhorrent persecution by Muslim men, religious leaders and imam, Sharia judges, and police officers in the Islamic community and the religion of Islam, and it is hostile, hateful, and abusive teachings against women's rights, which are innumerable. For example, beating of women, child marriage, circumcision of private parts of Muslim girls, which is known universally as female genital mutilation or FGM, slaying them in honor killings, inequality between males and females in inheritance, testimony in court, marriage, divorce, custody of children, males' guardianship over women, controlling their lives and destinies as if they are minors, physically handicapped, or mentally retarded, and forcing them to wear the ibayas, veils, hijabs, niqabs, or the humiliating black burqas as if they are frightening ghosts. Muslim men are allowed by the Quran to have sex, or rather rape, without the need for marriage. Captive women of war, such as wives, daughters, sisters, and even mothers of the defeated enemies, who are called unclean infidels. Many Islamic countries refrain women from going to schools and work, and they are forbidden to practice any kind of sports. And they are not allowed to go to gymnastics, beaches, or swimming pools, cinemas, or theaters, and none of them is allowed to leave the house without her husband or with a muhram. Man, the woman is forbidden to marry such as her father or a brother. They are not allowed to drive cars, bicycles, or motorbicycles. They are also not allowed to fall in love with men before marriage, or choose their future husbands or life partners. The stories about the three persecuted innocent girls, namely Intisar, Firdaus, and Muna. Chapter 36. The imprisoned old man meets his spiritual leader. Mr. Osman al-Taib spent the first 6 days in the hospital in a prolonged coma. He was kept in the intensive care unit while in comatose state. During the riots and the fight in the prison, he got many injuries. His left leg was broken twice. 2 of his ribs were shattered. He has lost all of his artificial teeth. His skull was fractured. His back was damaged beyond repair. Wherefore, for 6 days and 6 nights, his evil soul hung between life and death, and earth and hell. However, on the seventh day, the zombie man came back to life and opened his evil eyes. When he looked around, he saw his 3 wives, their sons, their daughters, and their grandchildren and other offspring. Some of them with sad faces, some with gloomy faces, and some with angry faces. Due to the fierce fighting in the barracks number 13, which hunted by human demons of the gang of Kukua or the Shaitan, the old man's memory initially failed him. He couldn't remember anything except his 3 families. Thus, he was surprised to see his 3 families gathered around him with these grim faces. His mind was clouded and fear arose in his troubled heart. The old man silently asked himself, did I have a major heart attack or had a fatal car accident? No remembrance of such incidents appeared in his confused, evil mind. So he decided to get up and inquire about the reason for this huge unnecessary familial gathering around his deathbed, like a dead corpse in an undertaker's place. He wants to know if he is in his final stages and will die at any moment. With the support of his hands, he somehow managed to sit on his deathbed. He felt as if he was carrying a heavy weight on his chest and back. Then he tried to pull his legs up, put them on the ground, and stand up. He stretched his left leg, but found it in a light cast. He tried to pull his right leg out, but discovered it was chained to the bed. He was astonished to find that he was literally chained up as if he was a dangerous lunatic or a notorious criminal. The first explanation that occurred to him is that he may have become insane, and due to his violent behavior and as a result of the protection of the community, he was chained up and thrown into a mental hospital. His mind became confused, and then he started saying silly things. To clear his suspicions, he asked aloud, who am I? His first wife Khadija exclaimed, you are my husband. His second wife, Maryam, said, you are my life partner. You are Mr. Osman al-Taib, and I'm your wife, Amuna Sitt al-Banat, or the honor of the daughters. His third wife replied, you are my father, and I am your daughter, Suraya. You are my grandfather, and I am your granddaughter, Sausan. I'm your eldest son, Mustafa. I'm your daughter, Raqayya. The old man kept hearing many voices answering his silly question. Some of them thought that he had lost his memory, and others concluded that he had gone insane and completely lost his senses. With these thoughts, his three family members tried hard to recover his lost memory or restore him to his normal five senses. The old man got upset, closed his eyes, and fell back on the bed. The three family members were alarmed by this sudden behavior and thus jumped to hasty conclusions. The old man started to hear some whispers. Did the Julkane, our old grandfather, die? Not yet, but I don't think he will live for long. I wish he would die rather than suffer for so long. He will die soon. He is in his last stages. He is already clinically dead. He is standing a few steps from his grave, and that is his final rest. But when he will die and find peace, may God soon take him to the grave. Amen to your kind wish. I hate to see him in such a miserable, pathetic state. What did the doctor say about him? The doctor refused to tell us anything specific, but he said we have to ask Allah to have mercy on him and give him a long life or give him a merciful death. These mystic whispers made the old man open his eyes. He looked at his eldest son Mustafa and asked him, where am I? You are in the Gadarif civil hospital. Why I am in the hospital? Because some evil men have beaten you, left you like a dead corpse. Why did they hit me? We don't know why. Why did they tie me with these heavy chains? No response was received from the son Mustafa. The old man turned his face to his three wives, but none of them dared to tell him why he was chained to his hospital bed. Then he looked at others, sad faces, and repeated his question, but everyone kept silent. He closed his eyes and fell back on his bed. Now he is like a dead man, ready for his funeral and burial. Is he dead and gone now? Not yet. Do you think he will die soon? I don't think this old man will die so quickly. I don't think this old geezer will ever die. You are right. He is not the type to die so easily. He is like a dog that has 7 souls or a cat with 9 lives. But it is better for him to die quickly than to live like the statue of the Mahatma Gandhi or a vegetable with a body that does not possess senses. The frightened old man opened his eyes again to stop the fearful and pessimistic words. He asked angrily, "Have I become a madman?" His son Mustafa said, "Not yet. Why am I chained up in this goddamn hospital?" His eldest son remained silent again. "Where is my spiritual friend and virtuous Imam, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk?" "Maulana is sitting outside your room in the visitor's room." "Go tell him to come to me and tell everyone here to get out of my room. I don't want to see their sad faces or hear their pessimistic words." Mustafa immediately went out, and all 3 families followed him. After a few minutes, the religious leader appeared with his bearded face. He walked slowly and fearfully towards his criminal friend. The old man looked at him with an angry face and said, "Why am I chained? Oh, our God Allah," said the Imam, "do not hold us accountable for what the evil people among us have done." "Maulana, you did not answer my question. God willing, you will soon be free from your chains and slavery," said the religious guide aloud. "Did I go crazy? That is why I was put in a mental hospital? God forbid that. Am I in jail? Not exactly, but sooner or later you will be back inside the dungeon." "Why am I going to jail?" "Actually, you have been in jail for some time, but due to your bad health condition, you have been kept in the hospital." "What did I do to get to prison?" "Those bad boys and adulterous girls have reported you to the police. So you were arrested at the home of your first wife brother, Omar. You have been arrested along with Omar and Inspector Hussein for bribery and corruption." When Maulana mentioned Inspector Hussein and Omar's name, the old man's memory regained its strength. At the same time, he remembered everything and then he started to cry. Maulana started pouring crocodile tears too. In a sad voice, the evil old man began to narrate his painful experience inside the prison. "Our blessed Imam, I was severely beaten by the ruthless police interrogators and evil criminals who call themselves bodyguards inside the prison. I was beaten with police batons and criminal rods. I was treated like a drunkard or a gay or a whore. My money was also stolen. I was trampled under hundreds of feet and almost painfully killed by stampede. I have seen with my own eyes our dear comrade, the might witch doctor, Haj Muhammad, being severely beaten up with a stick like a disobedient Muslim wife. I have also seen his ears completely ripped off, his large head. He became like a scary beast or a bloodsucker vampire after violently cutting off his ears. We both experienced unbearable humiliation and torture. The good man Haj Muhammad may now be among the dead. He was brutally murdered by a notorious criminal known as Kuku, the devil's son. As his name means, that man is really the son of Satan, the devil. He is supposed to be in prison with wild beasts and not with two righteous men and good citizens like me and the late Haj Muhammad. That Kukuwat the Shaitan is not a human being, but rather the devil embodied in the form of a man. Imagine, O Maulana, a benevolent man like me, who is known and respected in the community, has been imprisoned in the same barracks where such a dangerous criminal and his vicious gang are. I'm deeply sorry to know that a good man like you has been so humiliated. The man who built the largest mosque in our city, the girls' high school, and the women's ward in this hospital should be rewarded by society in such an inhuman way just because of a simple mistake you made, which everyone in this city does. You were dragged like a criminal, handcuffed, and taken to the jail where you were severely beaten and tortured to death. There is no justice or mercy in this city. I'm ashamed to call myself a citizen of this country. Maulana, it was my own son who betrayed me, reported me to the police because of that dirty and poor whore Intisar. He sold his loving father. I will never forget such a painful experience as I was subjected to brutal torture and humiliation inside the dungeon. May God reward you for the good you have done for this city and punish your enemies. Maulana, my main enemy is my son Sami. Whether I live or I die, I want you to know that I must avenge myself on him. I will send him and those whores and those homosexual will seem either to prison, tombs, or hell. I won't let him marry that dirty bitch or get close to her. Whatever it takes, I will not allow my name to be attached to that evil girl Intisar. When I saw you in the hospital and saw Haj Muhammad, I could not recognize either of you. Is Haj Muhammad still alive? Yes, he is. They are still holding him in the intensive care unit. That sorcerer is like a dog that has 7 lives. Yes, he is. By the way, how did he get to jail? We tried hard to persuade him to stay with us in the village Dalasa for a few days, but he refused to listen to our wise advice. Maulana, forget about Haj Muhammad and listen to me. Yes, I am listening to you. Can you do me a favor? Yes, of course, I will do whatever you want me to do for you. I'm your best friend and spiritual leader, and I'm always at your service. I want you to go to Khartoum City as soon as possible. I'm very worried about my first wife, Firdos. I don't know what happened to her. I left her with a servant known as Harun. He's a crazy like fool. I want you to go and find out how they are doing. Take some gifts and money with you. Give the gifts to my wife. But remember, she should not be released until I am released from the damn jail and this filthy hospital. Is she chained too? You don't know what that stupid girl did to me. She tried to kill me twice, but God delivered me from her. She's a dirty bitch like her sister Intisar, and a dangerous woman as her sister Farida. But I think now Harun had already disciplined and tamed her with his big stick. All new wives act like this in the beginning, but with the passage of time, they accept God's will and settle down. My last wife, Maimuna bint Defallah, the Walbait, did the same thing with me. But now, even if I ask her to go to her family's house, she will not leave me and go to her parents. Where is the money I gave you to give to those evil blackmailers? I didn't spend it, and I didn't lose it, but the village chief confiscated it from us. We escaped on foot to that far village Dalasa after learning that you and Omar were arrested and both of you were in prison? Why did you let the village chieftain steal my money? Is he a police interrogator or a bodyguard too? He is worse than a policeman and a criminal. The great politician, didn't fly away from him in time, he would have stoned us to death or beheaded us. But what did you do to him that made him so angry with you and our comrade, Mr. Mahjoub al Hilali? He was a kind and hospitable to us at first, but when he saw Haj Muhammad's picture in the newspapers, he accused us of being frauds and rapists. What did he see in the newspapers? I told you that he saw Haj Muhammad. So what if our famous witch doctor, a righteous man like our comrade Haj Muhammad, appear in the newspapers? Sometimes even gays and lesbians appear in local newspaper. I've seen in the newspaper some high-profile prostitutes and some of the rich and great men of our society who have committed adultery with them in hotels. But that would have been a lesser evil than what he had done. What did he do worse than fornication and prostitution? The chief of the village, Dalasa, saw him, and we also saw him on the front pages of the newspapers while he was standing naked like King Pharaoh, without any clothes on his body. He was like the day his mother gave birth to him. The newspaper also showed a beautiful teenage girl lying on the ground in front of him while her pussy and black pubic hair were clearly shown to the camera. What do you say, our honorable Imam? In fact, he was caught red-handed by police inspector Yasin while he was completely naked like a black genie and raping a naked girl like the horror Pabil inside his house. She was one of his visitors. May our God Allah curse that notorious womanizer, and may our holy prophet curse the day his mother opened her pussy and gave birth to a trash like him. Amen, O Lord. The Imam agreed with the prayer of his imprisoned body. He then added, because of that disgraceful act of the lustful man Muhammad, which the newspaper revealed him standing naked with his dick standing like a cannon, the head of the village Dalasa saw that we were adulterers and rapists like our damned friend. Maulana al-Mubarak, please forget that lustful magician, Haj Muhammad. I ask God that the Sharia court judge condemns him and hand him over to the prisoner executioner to hang him to death by hanging him on the gallows by his genitals. Amen, Lord of the worlds, Maulana shouted happily. Tell my elder son Mustafa to give you some money. Before you travel to the capital city tomorrow, you must buy many presents, beautiful dresses and shoes for my first wife Firdaus. You can give some money to my servant Harun, but don't trust that foolish man and give him a large sum of money. Don't worry, I'll go to your new wife and do as you ask me to do. I don't know how long those evil jailers will keep me in jail. I don't want to go back to the barracks of those demon-possessed human beasts inside the dungeon of thieves and murderers. I'm ready to spend all my fortune to keep myself in this hospital. God willing, you'll not go back to prison. Your eldest son Mustafa and I spoke with Dr. Yasin Taha, and he promised us that he would keep you always in the hospital. He will declare you unfit for imprisonment. Mustafa had already given him a check for the amount he demanded as a bribe for his generous services. May our Holy Prophet Muhammad send his abundant blessings to our blessed Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, and may God reward Dr. Yasin Taha and my honorable Prophet bless your four wives and children and grandchildren. Thank you, my dear friend, Mr. Osmal Taib, and may God remove all your troubles and misfortunes. Amin. I repeat, Maulana, I'm willing to pay any amount of money to distance myself from those human beasts in prison. I told you it was taken care of. Now, Maulana, go quickly to Khartoum City and come back as soon as possible. Tomorrow morning, I will take the bus at 6:30 a.m. and travel to the capital city and meet your beautiful first wife. I long to spend a joyful night in, in bed again with my beloved bride Firdaus. As you prophesied and predicted to me, our blessed Imam, my lovely and sexy underage bride Firdaus has truly become my paradise on earth during our short honeymoon. God willing, you will soon be released from prison and return to your virgin of paradise on earth and enjoy your happy married life together. And you taste her honey, and she will taste your sweetness. I mean, O Lord of the worlds, the imprisoned old geezer cried joyfully. The hypocrite Imam said, I mean, O Lord of the heaven and earth. Chapter 37, Slaughter for the honor of the Muslim wife. The virtuous Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, as promised to his accomplice in crime, Mr. Osman Taib, left Al Gadarif city by Al Taysir bus at 6:30 in the morning and arrived in Khartoum city at 12:30 noon. From the bus station, he took a taxi straight to the Al Amarat area, where the beautiful Virgin of Paradise, the late wife Firdaus, and her evil bodyguard Harun are supposed to be staying in a rented house. The old man had given his faithful messenger the address of his first wife. When he reached the house in question, the virtuous Imam bade the taxi driver and sent him away. He stood in front of the house and then carefully examined the address. When he was satisfied that it was indeed the right home, he began knocking on the outside door. He heard a sweet female voice responding to his knocking. Who is there? The blessed Imam said, I am a visitor, a male visitor. The woman said in amazement, Where did you come to visit? I came to meet you, madam, but I don't expect any visitors today. I'm sent to you by your loving husband. Why does my husband send a man to his wife while he's out of the house? Do you love your husband, my dear madam? Yes, of course. I do not love any other man except my beloved husband. But who are you? Don't care about who am I. I'm so glad to know that you love your husband now. It means that you have become an obedient and good Muslim wife, and you do not need to be chained inside the house of obedience. I'm always a woman of good morals and a very obedient Muslim wife to my husband. I have brought you beautiful gifts and expensive dresses from your generous husband. Gifts and dresses for me? What kind of gifts? Beautiful golden necklace for your neck, bracelets for your feet, earrings for your ears, and bangles for your hands. They are all made of pure gold. 6 beautiful dresses, 5 pairs of shoes, 4 Sudanese saris, very sweet watch, milk chocolate box, and a large amount of money in cash. Can you give me the gifts and dresses and the cash through the door? You can just put them in front of the outside door steps and leave immediately. I'm a single woman at home. I don't want any man to see my face. If I do that, What do I say to your loving husband? If he asks me, how is my beautiful wife? Should I tell him that I have not seen her? My husband told me very sternly not to let any man into the house while he was away. I'm not any man. I'm his best friend, imam, and spiritual leader. He trusts me, and that is why he has sent me with such expensive gifts a large sum of money for you. The lovely woman was finally convinced and opened the door for Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. The holy man of God persuaded her to let him in by seducing her with gifts and money. When the blessed Imam entered, his first reaction was to follow the religious advice that says, the first look is for you and the second look is against you. This means that a cursory glance at a woman is permissible in Islam, but looking at her beautiful face and sexy body and lusting after her is forbidden and haram. Therefore, in less than a split second, His Eminence, the Imam, looked at the woman's beautiful face and concluded that she was the first wife Firdaus. He did not shake because he did not shake her hand because Islam forbade that. The woman withdrew her hand when the immaculate man of God refused to touch her. While his eyes were looking down, he greeted her very politely. Then the woman began to walk past her visitor. She led him to her bedroom. As she walked in front of him, she deliberately swung up and down her hips and big ass in such a way as to attract the attention of her guests. Her dress is very transparent and reveals her beautiful and sexy figure. The visitor can see her little pink lingerie very clearly through her sheer short dress. Maulana broke the aforementioned religious advice and constantly focused his eyes on the big ass of his friend's beautiful wife, and his cock lust after her pussy until he began to imagine himself enjoying her big buttocks. So in his heart he was jealous of the old man and wished he had a bride as beautiful as she was. When the woman got to the room, she asked him to sit on a chair and went out to get him some lemonade drink. After a while, she returned it with a large glass of juice in her hand for the important visitor. By then, the religious man had developed a subtle way of looking at her sexy body without her knowledge. Wherefore, when she came out, he looked at her big buttocks, and when she came back, he looked down. In fact, while he is looking down, his eyes are on her long, sexy legs. The young woman applied sandalwood perfume and tortoise henna on her hands and feet, causing the guest to become aroused, and his dick stood inside his julbab like the canon of Ramadan. She also used Sudanese locally made perfume such as dilka, khumra, and henna on her sexy body. On that day, she sat more than 4 hours on a hall filled with burning sandalwood and smoked her naked body. In fact, she is really a beautiful new bride. The blessed Imam decided to convince her that her husband was in prison and asked him to stay with her and take care of her and protect her until he is released. Then our Lord knows that his Prophet Muhammad said, if a man and woman are isolated themselves alone together in the company of each other in one place, Satan is deemed to be their third partner. In other words, when a man and woman are alone in a place, Satan will tempt them to engage in sex and adultery, and then they will commit haram and fahisha immorality. Therefore, it is forbidden for a man and woman to be alone. To solve this difficult religious restriction, follow male and follow male and female employees in the workplace and male and female students at the university or a school. A professor from Al Azhar Sharif University in Egypt suggested that the girls should breastfeed these fellow male colleagues so that they become brothers and sisters through breastfeeding. According to the hadith of the Messenger of Allah regarding the suckling of an adult, the girl must allow the stranger to suck on the nipples of her naked breasts for 10 full feedings until he is satisfied. Can we add sexual satisfaction too? In any case, the righteous Imam remembered that even his infallible Prophet Muhammad, with all his divine protection, could not control himself when he visited his adopted son's wife, Zainab bint Jahsh, and saw her almost naked while she was alone in her house. Therefore, the Holy Prophet of God blessed her amazing beauty and sexy body and wished to have sex with her when he saw her lying on her bed while she was half naked. That is why the Prophet Muhammad mumbled some words and said that God can change hearts. Then God commanded in his Holy Quran that the son of his messenger Zayd should divorce his wife Zainab so that his beloved Prophet Muhammad could marry her and fuck her in a lawful manner. Accordingly, the blessed Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk decided to play the same so-called game of lawful marriage with the beautiful Virgin of Paradise, Firdaus, the first wife of his imprisoned comrade, Osman al-Tayyib. He thinks that the old geezer may not get out of jail for many years. In the meantime, he can issue a fatwa enabling the sexy wife to divorce her imprisoned husband. Then he divorced his first wife, Sittana bint Al-Ajab, and marries the sexy divorcee Firdaus to update the number of his harem to 4 wives at the same time. With this devilish thoughts in his corrupted mind, the blessed Imam began to drink his lemonade juice. After drank his cold drink, he opened his handbag and removed the money, gifts, dresses, and shoes. Then he counted some banknotes and put them on the table near the gifts. He decided to give the beautiful and sexy bride half of the money that the rich old man gave him and steals the other half of the light sum. Before he could open his big mouth to speak to his imprisoned friend's lovely wife and reveal the reason for her husband's delay in coming and why he had sent him with gifts and money, as well as asking him to stay with and protect his first wife. The virtuous Imam heard a heavy knocking on the outer door. The woman quickly rose to her feet and anxiously told him that this must be my husband. How did he return so quickly from his military mission, which is supposed to take two days? He left home yesterday. He told me he would be back in 2 days. Are you sure my husband sent you? I don't think my husband could afford to buy such expensive gifts. Maulana said calmly, this cannot be your husband. I left him sick in the hospital. So if all people of Sudan present themselves before your house, your husband will not be among them. Please, my dear madam, relax and calm down. And let me tell you of the feudal evil that has befallen your loving husband. The woman stood on her feet and no longer cared about the stranger, his gifts, and his money. Please, Raja, open the door. Yes, this is the voice of my husband Abbas, the wife said with concern. She spoke those words to herself rather than to her unexpected guest. Oh God, save me and protect me. Now he will slaughter you and me too in an honor killing. When the young woman said these words, the blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk looked at her face and discovered that she was not Firdaus. Now he was frightened and troubled in his heart, and his mind became muddled. He got to his feet and did not know what to do next. For the first time, he hated his religious restriction, which prevented him from looking carefully at the woman's face before entering her house. Raja, Raja, if you don't open the door quickly, I'll demolish it and come in and kill you, the angry husband shouted. The young woman ran to the door, out the door, and opened it. She quickly backed away and stood away from the door, trembling and sweating with fear and alarm. The woman expected her husband to attack her and kill her first when he sees the stranger in his bedroom. The virtuous Imam was still standing and trembling with fear. His eyes looked around the bedroom and saw on the wall a picture of a soldier. He guessed it is the husband's photo. His guess was immediately confirmed when he saw a 6 foot 5 inches tall man standing in front of him. He's an angry soldier. He's wearing his military uniform. He's huge and looks like an ISIS or a Boko Haram terrorist. Maulana knew that he would not be able to defeat him in a mortal battle for his wife's honor. He concluded that such a hideous looking man would slay him in an honor killing in a few minutes. He cares now for his soul, which will leave his body in a few seconds. So the blessed Imam began to pray and ask Allah to have mercy on him and dwell him in his vast paradise. He's sure that in a few minutes the angry soldier will turn him into a dead corpse. Meanwhile, the soldier Abbas growls like a lion who has found another beast in his lair while having sex with his lioness wife. Finally, I caught you while you were involved in committing adultery with my unfaithful and adulterous wife, cried the soldier angrily. Before Maulana replied, the fellow soldier, you are the man who comes and fucks my wife with your impure cock in her dirty pussy when I am not here. Neighbors told me about you, but I refused to believe them. When some of them asked me to either kill her or divorce her because she was cheating on me, I decided to spy on her. Today, I find you inside my house, in my bedroom, and with my cheating wife, fucking her on top of my bed, which I bodied with the sweat of my brow. I will remove your skin from your flesh and burn your defiled body with fire. I'm the righteous Imam of the largest mosque in the city of Gadarif. So it is impossible for a righteous man like me to think of adultery and sleep with another man's wife. I have 4 beautiful wives who are all available for my sexual satisfaction. Therefore, I have no sexual desire for another woman, even if she is Miss World or the Virgin of Heaven on earth. Even the most beautiful Hollywood heroine in American and the sweetest Indian Bollywood superstar in Bombay can turn me on sexually. When His Eminence, the virtuous Imam of the great mosque in Gadarif city, sought to justify his marital social status, holiness, and sexual fidelity, the angry soldier discovered the expensive gifts and the big money cash on the table. You have bought my wife's honor and body with these gifts and money? You took her heart away from me and made her to hate me. Today I will destroy your life as you destroyed my married life. As a result, the enraged soldier suddenly removed his military belt from his waist. The belt is equipped with two heavy metal pieces that hold it together. With the two metals on either side, the soldier began striking the religious leader on his head, face, chest, back, stomach, arms, hands, legs, and mouth. Blows fell on him like bullets and entered his body, which was bleeding in great abundance. He, he felt them like bullets fire at him at close range. With each blow, Molana's flesh started to open up, and his blood gushed out like a red liquid. The painful beating continued for 20 minutes. When the dangerous soldier's hands got tired, he threw off his belt and began to use his feet. By this time, the Imam had fallen to the ground, and all his white clothes and white turban were torn and filled with his blood, which was bleeding profusely. His long turban protruded from his large bald head. Being a well-trained soldier, Abbas wears heavy boots. The, the shoe has pointed spikes as if it was a football uh, or a soccer boot. With these heavy boots, the soldier started kicking Maulana in his face. The enraged Abbas continued kicking his boots on the body of the fallen religious leader. He smashed and crushed his nose, teeth, cheeks, lips, ears, eyes, and forehead. He also deliberately kicked the evil Imam's erect penis. If he had a knife, he would have cut off Molana's cock and crushed it on his mutilated face, then inserting it into his contemptible mouth. The Imam's face became like a human face covered with burning acid. His face was completely disfigured. His long beard was cut off from his jaws and was scattered everywhere. One Mrs. Raja, the soldier's wife, saw her unexpected visitors now passing in a pool of blood. She began to scream loudly and beseech her neighbors to come for help. She concluded that after her enraged husband kills the stranger, he will come after her and slay her in an honor killing as well. When the neighbors heard the screams and beatings, they assumed that the soldier had killed his adulterous and unfaithful wife. However, some of them came running into the house. The wife directed them to the room where the honor killing was still taking place. They rushed into the room and find the husband killing a stranger in his bedroom. With great difficulty, they managed to catch the enraged soldier. Despite controlling his hands and legs, his mouth continued to curse the man who had supposedly committed adultery and fucked his unfaithful wife on his bed. Some of the neighbors somehow managed to pull the soldier out of the room. The others were afraid to touch the dying stranger's body. They looked at his slaughtered body with frightened eyes. They hated him and wished he was already dead. Every part of his body was covered in blood. They saw that his face had been completely disfigured by the kicking of the soldier's boots. Some therefore conclude that he was murdered in brutal honor killing. They also conclude that he is a dirty old man who used his money to buy the pussy of the adulterous wife, and therefore he deserved to be brutally slaughtered in honor killing. Despite this conclusion, the neighbors are of two minds regarding the adulterous stranger. Some suggested that they let him bleed to death as punishment for his abhorrent adultery with the filthy adulteress. Others said they should report him to the police. However, the latter proposal was accepted and the police men were called in. When the police officers came, they immediately took the dying stranger to the hospital. The enraged assailant was then questioned by the police as to what had driven him to such madness and rage that he had savagely attacked the dying old man. The soldier proudly told the policeman that he had killed the wicked aged man because he had caught him and his wife in the very act of committing adultery in his house and on his bed. Although the Khartoum police officers know that honor killing is not a serious crime punishable by law in Sudan, they decided to arrest the soldier and his wife and take them into police custody for further questioning. But the beautiful wife, Raja, defied her neighbors in the police station, accusing them of lying. She defended herself by telling the police officers who arrested her and her husband that her neighbors were jealous of her beauty. She also told them that many young men in that area tried to approach her and persuade her to cheat on her husband, but she rejected them and cursed them all. Her husband trusted her before, but the neighbors poisoned his mind and made him spy on her. She swore by God that she did not betray him or cheated on him. It is a completely false claim. She also said that the stranger man was unknown to her. It seemed that it was a misunderstanding or a mistake in the address that brought him to her house. Perhaps he came to meet the wife of the former tenant of the rented house. She challenged any neighbor to show on his cell phone a picture of her and the stranger having sex while they are naked on her husband's bed. In the absence of such evidence, the police accepted her defense and therefore released her immediately. But her husband remained in custody for the attempted murder of a stranger in a false honor killing. Moreover, 5 men and 3 women were arrested in that area on charges of lying and falsely accusing a good Muslim wife of infidelity. Some of the neighbors took the matter to the Sharia court. Some of them alleged that the soldier caught his wife while she was having sex with the murdered old man in his house and on his bed. But the Sharia court asked the neighbors to bring 4 other witnesses who saw the adulterer and the soldier's wife naked on the bed. Furthermore, they must provide evidence that the man and woman were having sex when they were caught red-handed, as they alleged. According to Islam, adultery can be proven in 3 ways: by 4 other witnesses, confession of an adulterer or an adulteress, the harmless pregnancy. So the Sharia court in Khartoum asked the neighbors to prove that the soldier wife had committed adultery with the murdered old man in one of these 3 ways. Moreover, Dewan Allah referred to the following issue concerning the proof of adultery. It is based on the rule of the second caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, who is considered in Islam to be the fairest man of all after the Prophet Muhammad. Umar ibn al-Khattab was known as the fairest judge, a ruler who walked the face of the earth. That is why he's called Umar al-Faruq, meaning Umar al-Adil, or the just. However, citing a story mentioned by the famous Muslim commentator and historian Ibn Kathir, which shows how Umar ibn al-Khattab dealt with the legal issues related to the accusation of adultery. It is an important case that indicates Umar's position on the implementation of the penalty of stoning adultery. It is the most famous historical story in the history of the Arabs. This case occurred in the year 17 of Hijrah calendar. There is no authentic Islamic book that does not include this story. Three important companions of the Prophet Muhammad witnessed this case of adultery. They are Abu Bakr, Nafi ibn Haris, and Shibil ibn Ma'bad, who testified in front of Umar ibn al-Khattab that they saw the Muslim man al-Muqir ibn Shu'bah having sex with the Muslim woman Jamil. She was neither his wife nor his slave girl nor his board Jariya. Those three companions witnessed this act of adultery without fear or shame. When the first witness, Zayd ibn Shamla, came, Caliph Umar made him understand his desire not to disappoint Al-Muqir ibn Sha'bah. According to the Quran, adultery must be proven by four adult male witnesses. If adultery is proven, the guilty adulterer and the adulterous woman must be stoned to death in a public place, and many Muslim believers must witness their punishment. As mentioned above, to establish an accusation of adultery in Islam, the Quran requires the presence of four witnesses, and they must testify in court that they saw the male adulterer and the female adulteress in the very act of committing adultery. Before the Prophet's beloved wife Aisha was accused of adultery with the handsome young Muslim man Safwan ibn Mu'attal al-Salami, adultery could be proven by the testimony of two Muslim men or a man and two women. However, after the case of Aisha and Safwan, the Quran increased the number to four men. See Surah An-Nur 24, verse 4. And later, based on the rule of Caliph Al-Adil Umar, the thread method was introduced. Accordingly, the four witnesses must bring a string or a rope and pass it between the bodies of the adulterer and the adulteress during sexual intercourse. If the thread cannot pass between their naked bodies, this means that the adulterous cock is inside the adulterous pussy. Accordingly, the two committed adultery and must be stoned to death. After the case of the adultery of the Muslim man, Al-Muqir ibn Sha'bah with the Muslim woman Jamil, and the Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab asked that the four witnesses see the cock enter and exit inside the woman's cunt. Muslim scholars introduced the thread method. The thread is an inevitable and imperative way to prove the accusation. Therefore, in addition to four witnesses, Sharia law requires that the witnesses bring a thread and pass it between the adulterer and the adulteress. If the thread cannot pass between them, this proves that the man's erected cock is inside the woman's open pussy. And this is exactly what Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab asked of the four witnesses who arrested Al-Muqir ibn Sha'bah while he was fucking Jamil. And they were both naked and in the same act of adultery. In accordance, when the neighbors of the soldier Abbas could not prove their serious accusation of adultery by the thread method in the Khartoum Sharia court, the religious judge and the Muslim juryman dismissed the case. So the soldier's beautiful wife Raja is acquitted with her head held high in honor and absolved from the false charge of adultery with the murdered stranger in her husband's house and on his bed. Likewise, the criminal court tried the case and sentenced the soldier Abbas to 10 months in prison on charges of attempting to kill a stranger in defense of his wife's honor. This lenient verdict was based on the fact that honor killing is not a serious crime in a Muslim country. It is a common practice among Arabs and Muslims everywhere they live on the planet Earth. They use honor killing on their daughters, sisters, and wives if they accuse them of adultery. Chapter 38, the biggest sex scandal in Sudan. From the first day of his absence, the virtuous Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk's four wives, sons, daughters, and grandchildren were worried about him. Before leaving the city, Maulana told one of his four wives that he was going to Khartoum city on an urgent business, but he did not reveal to her the nature of his urgent work. This was the second time he disappeared like this without telling anyone the reason of his absence. Accordingly, the four wives are worried about the sudden change in their common polygamist husband's behavior. Likewise, Said Uthman al-Tayyib was perplexed by the delay of his messenger. The religious leader promised his evil friend to return as soon as possible, but after 4 days passed, the old man's mind started imagining possibilities such as Maulana having a serious car accident, sudden heart attack, or falling into a trap made by those bad friends of his evil son Sami. When the 5th day also passed without the arrival of the messenger, the old man told his elder son Mustafa to go and inquire about Maulana in his four residence. The son spent 2 days searching for the Imam among his four wives. On the 8th day, the son returned to his father in the hospital and informed him that the result of his careful search was negative. The old man got upset and ordered his son to bring him his second best friend, Mahjoub al-Hilali. The politician was brought from his home that same night. On the way, Mustafa informed him about the mysterious disappearance of the blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. When he entered the room and saw the miserable condition of the old man, lying like a dead corpse on the hospital deathbed, the great politician shouted, "I'm very sorry, sir, to see you in such a miserable state. Even a dead corpse may look better than you. May God punish Satan who took advantage of those bad boys and adulterous girls and caused your misfortunes." Olmar replied, "That you turn a blind eye to it now." The great politician suddenly saw the strong and long chain on the old man's leg. What is this, sir? What is on your leg? A chain? A prisoner's chain? An old, innocent, and sick man chained and shackled? Please forget my chains and my shackles and my restrained legs on the bed too. I have an urgent case more serious than my miserable condition. Sir, how can I, as a great politician, ignore such inhuman abuse that you are subjected to in these health facilities? I will report this inhuman treatment to human rights, women's rights, gay and lesbian rights, Human Rights Watch, feminist groups, the United Nations, Amnesty International, the International Criminal Court, the Arab League, and even animal rights. This is a clear violation of human rights. If I can get refugee status or a political asylum and resettlement in a Western country, I will gladly do it for you. This is a grave injustice committed in broad daylight against an innocent old man. We must immediately contact the White House, the European Union, the Pentagon, the American Marines, and NATO troops. Please shut your mouths and listen to me, interrupted the old man. I have a more serious problem than this nonsense you are talking about. All of these are useless global organizations that siphon off people's money and do nothing good to help them. They do more harm to people than good to the poor and needy. Young Arab Muslims Men and women and their children, both Africans and Asian refugees, drown every day in the raging waves of the Mediterranean Sea during their transfers to cross to the countries of Christian infidels and atheists in illegal migration. And they do not help them out of poverty or save them from death. Therefore, these world organizations are useless. How dare you speak unfairly about this great international organization when you haven't even finished 10th grade? You are a 10th grade dropout who wants to talk about international politics? You ignorant old geezer, shame on you, man. The old man shouted. Can you shut up your big mouth and listen to me? What do you want me to do for you? Our dear comrade, the virtuous Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, may Allah have mercy on his soul, disappeared 8 days ago. How can a man of his advanced age and high religious standing be lost? I think, sir, you mean to tell me that he was kidnapped by terrorists or that he ran away from his holy abode when the policemen came to arrest him, like you? Whether he was kidnapped, fled, stolen, or whatever you want to call it, that won't change or solve the problem. Have you reported the matter to the police authority? In our current situation, it is not recommended to go to the police. Not going to the police? A man of his age has been missing for 8 days and you want us to wait? Why are we waiting? Do you want to wait until he comes out of the grave as a zombie or a ghost? Can you close your mouth and listen to what I am going to tell you? I know that you are not used to listening to others, but only to speak and others should listen to you. Today we will change the order. I will speak and you must listen to me. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk was not kidnapped, ran away from home, or was chased and arrested by the police. I have sent him to Khartoum city to meet my first wife Firdaus and give her some presents and money. He promised to come soon, but it is been 8 days since he went. I want you and your son Hassan to go and find out where he is late. I can't send my son because I don't want any of my children to know about my new bride. Send me to Khartoum, it is not possible, sir. I have a lot of work to do. You mean to tell me you have a lot of nonsense to say? No politician in this country works. You may be right, but this is how we work. The more we talk, the better we do at our jobs. Listen, man, I don't care how you do your work for this country. For me, I need you to be reformed an important job. Tomorrow morning, I want you to go to the capital city along with son and find out why our blessed Imam is late. Okay, sir, I'll postpone all my important work for you. Tomorrow, I will go to the capital city, meet your new bride, and find our comrade, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. But I cannot take my son Hassan with me because he is in Port Sudan City. I sent him for an important family matter. You are an adult and you can travel on your own. Yes, I can even go abroad on my own. After that, the vile old man gave the address of his first wife to his second evil friend and asked him to return as soon as possible. He told him in unequivocal terms not to return to Gaddarif city without the blessed Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. The great politician swore to God and his holy prophet that he would not return home without the missing spiritual leader. In the meantime, despite being released from the woman's jail and acquitted of the serious charge of adultery with a stranger, slain in an honor killing, the beautiful bride Raja returned home disappointed. She felt that she had lost her military husband Abbas forever. In fact, the neighbors did not lie about the behavior of the soldier's wife. She really does have a secret boyfriend. Whenever her husband went on a military mission for 2 or 3 days outside the city, she would summon her lover to her home and enjoy with him. But after the recent incident that led to the loss of her husband and secret lover, the unfaithful wife Raja is sad and lonely. She also became depressed and despondent. She knew that all her neighbors had become her enemies and that everyone would be waiting for an opportunity to corner her and expose her again. She understood that it would be very risky if she found her secret boyfriend and invited him to come to her house again. If it is proven that she had an affair with another man while she was married, she would be stoned to death. So she understood that the best thing to do is to control her sexual desires and break her secret relationship with the other man. Accordingly, she called him on the phone the same day she came home, told him what had happened, and broke up with him. After that, Raja's life became boring and meaningless. Yet she yearns every night for her lover. She's the type of a girl who likes to be entertained, pampered, and have fun with a guy. Before she married her cousin, the soldier Abbas, she had many lovers and admirers. Every man in her village wished to marry her because of her beauty and sexy body. Many boys fought with each other because of her. Every one of them wanted to be her sole lover and marries her. Some young men failed in their exams and others migrated to the Gulf countries because they wanted to earn enough money to make her family force her to marry one of them. Some talented people wrote poems describing her incomparable beauty, and some sang songs in the praise of her sexy body. She was known among men as the girl with beautiful eyes and sexy body. When her father realized that she had become the object of interest for every young man in the village, he forced her to marry her cousin, the soldier Abbas. She did not enjoy her married life with her cousin. He is not a loving husband and does not know how to please his wife. He was always suspicious of her behavior. She was not allowed to leave the house alone or visit her neighbors. He always imprisoned her inside the four corners of his house. She met her lover when he came to fix some broken furniture in their house. He's a handsome and more loving than her husband, Abbas. He also knows how to have real sex in bed. Their relationship was hidden from her husband for some time until her envious neighbors betrayed her. Before that, she phoned her boyfriend and invited him to her house whenever her husband, the soldier Abbas, went on a military mission outside the city. Even when he was working night shifts, she called her lover and shared her nights with him. Her mind and body now craves that hot sex that always made her reach earth-shattering orgasms, as Westerners say about horny men fucking hot women. While her mind was remembering those pleasant nights with her boyfriend, the beautiful and sexy wife Raja heard someone knocking on the outside door. She looked at her watch and it showed 8:15 p.m. and she wondered who would come to visit her at this time of day. She has no friends or relatives in the capital city. The milkman already came and gave her milk and went. So she concluded that the knocking on the outer door was just a figment of her imagination. She again heard someone knocking on her door, this time louder than before. She understood it is real. She got up from her bed and slowly headed towards the outside door. Through a small secret hole in the door, she peeped to see who the unexpected visitors was. She saw a tall, handsome man who seemed to be in his late 40s. Her mind told her that he might be a police inspector in a plain clothes who had come to inquire about her condition with her envious neighbors who had tried to accuse her of being unfaithful to her husband and committing adultery with a stranger. Who there in the door? The soldier's wife asked. Dear madam, I am an important guest, said the handsome man. Who do you want to meet? I've come to meet you. I'm alone at home and my husband is out of town. Your husband sent me to you. Sir, I regret to tell you that you have come to the wrong address. I'm pretty sure I have come to the right address. My husband is out of town. Sir, my husband is out of town and he could not possibly meet you. Madam, your husband is in prison and I met him yesterday. He sent me to you to give you some money and gifts. When the stranger said that he had met her husband in prison, Roger's suspicion vanished and she had to open the door immediately. The strange guest entered the house with his eyes looking at the ground. He deliberately avoided looking at the pretty face of the sexy body of his evil friend's first wife, Firdos. He has seen the two sisters, Firdos and Tisar, before and knows how beautiful and sexy they are, attractive to every man who looks at them. Then the British soldier's wife directed him to a bedroom and went to the kitchen to get him some mango juice. When she returned with the cold drink in her hand, the great politician had a chance to see her face. Accordingly, he quickly rose to his feet and said, Excuse me, madam, I think I made a big mistake and got to the wrong address. I don't think you did anything wrong. I'm the same wife. Recently, my husband was arrested and he's in jail now. But I saw his new wife Firdos with my own eyes. You are not my friend's first wife that I have seen, unless he has two wives in this city. Do you know my husband by name? Yes, of course, I know him personally. He is the richest business tycoon in the city of Gadarif, and his name is Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib. The soldier's wife, Raja, immediately realized that the stranger had come to meet the former tenant. Nevertheless, she decided to lure him in anyway and take the money from him and the gifts, if possible, to get some sexual pleasure with him. Yes, he is my husband, shouted the wife of the imprisoned soldier, Abbas, while crying and shedding crocodile tears. I didn't know if my husband had gone to jail. You have brought me very sad, bad news. Why did my beloved husband go to jail? The politician concluded that the beautiful woman is most likely one of the wealthy businessman's many wives. He knows that the old man is a notorious womanizer. So he saw that the beautiful and sexy woman was probably another wife of his imprisoned friend. I'm sorry, madam, for the bad news I have brought you. Your husband is involved in some crimes of kidnapping, rape, and bribery. Kidnapping and rape? That traitor! How could he go after other women when he told me I was his only favorite wife? Then the soldier's wife pretended that she was deeply hurt by the sad news. She started crying and pulling her long hair and slapping her face. Hormones causes the stranger to quickly rise from his chair and go and sit down beside her on the same large bed. Then he tried to stop her from hurting herself. Please, my dear lady, be patient and courageous, and do not harm yourself. Your husband will soon be released from prison, and he will return to you and clarify the misunderstanding between you both. While I was speaking these words, the stranger was holding Raja's tender hands between his rough hands. She happened to be wearing a very short dress that exposed her shoulders, legs, thighs, and half of her boobs in her bra. And on her body, the perfume smelled like gum and old wine. Her dress and her body also spread the fragrance of the sweet scent of Indian sandalwood. As she is still a new Sudanese bride, she is hunched over smoky Oregon and aromatic oil scents, as if she is ready for her handsome groom to take her to bed and have sex with her all night long on their first wedding night. When she felt the hands of the handsome stranger being held in hers, the beautiful bride Raja deliberately approached him. She quickly changed the position of her legs. She exposed her sexy thighs until the handsome stranger saw her red underwear. Her color is like a yellow mango, and the color of her legs is like pure gold. Such a change made the stranger change his heart as well. Before this sudden change, his hands were full of mercy, but now his body was filled with intense lust that no man could control. So he sat down beside her on the bed and went on to squeeze her hands. He felt her right leg touching his left leg. The sexy wife kept crying over her cheating husband. The politician's hand slowly moved away from hers and ended up lying on her back. The hot wife remained in the same position. Then he started then he started moving his hand gently up and down her back and buttocks. The woman continued to cry for her imprisoned husband. When she shouldn't stop him from touching her entire back, a stranger's hand moved from her big ass and fell on one of her exposed thighs. The woman's crying gradually began to faint until it finally died. Then the aroused politician slowly took her head and placed it on his chest. The beautiful woman silently obeyed. He hugged her and touched one of her half-exposed breasts. The woman shows no sign of resistance, so the handsome person's right hand started moving quickly from a sensitive area to a more sensitive area on the body of the sexy woman. His erect dick became like a cannon or a tanker, ready to fire on its close target, her hairy pussy. Then the soldier's adulterous wife fell on the bed and pulled the handsome stranger towards her. Her last step indicated that she was now prepared and ready for him. Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali quickly jumped on the bed and climbed over the sexy body of the treacherous and adulterous wife of the imprisoned soldier Abbas. Meanwhile, ever since Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali got out of the taxi and stopped in front of the soldier's house, the neighbors began to spy on him. When he entered, some of them secretly followed him into the house. They had climbed up the wall and jumped into the soldier's house. They hid behind the windows and watched everything the suspicious man said or did with the soldier's wife. When they saw them beginning to kiss each other, the young man suggested that they should catch them, but the older man said that they should wait. Soon after, they saw that the handsome stranger and the beautiful adulterous wife had taken off their clothes and were completely naked. Then they started rubbing and caressing each other's bodies. The youth said that it was time to arrest them, but the elders again objected and said, according to the law of God and his prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace, that such an act would not be taken as an immoral act. It cannot be considered real adultery. This sexual abuse in Islam is called al-lamam, which means sexual harassment of a man with, with a woman other than his legal wife. They waited until they saw the stranger's naked body climb over the body of the soldier's wife, who was also completely naked. The youth said that they should not wait any longer, but the elders insisted that the youth always like to jump to a hasty conclusion. They justified their argument by quoting a religious authority who said, unless the man's dick mirwet is inserted in the mukhal, the woman's pussy, it will not be called adultery, according to Sharia law. Now they see the adulterous stranger begin to move up and down the naked body of the soldier's adulterous wife. The youth asked their elders to act now, or perhaps it might be too late. The elders refused to act and decided to wait a while. Remember that the Sharia court rejected their previous complaint against the adulterous wife Raja for the lack of evidence with the old man who was slain in honor. They waited again until they saw the stranger start moving rapidly up and down. The elders this time split among themselves, so they asked God to give them some wise wisdom, to give them a wise decision. They decided to cast lots. By the time the stranger had reached the end of his sexual pleasure and squirted his erect cock with white semen into the adulterous wife's pussy, when Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilani and Mrs. Raja reached the peak of their sexual happiness, they suddenly saw white flashes like lightning focusing on their naked, sweaty bodies. They realized that at least 5 photographers were taking numerous pictures of their fully nude bodies. Raja was the first to see many witnesses, hence she wished the naked body of the stranger of her own naked body. Then she tried to find her short purple dress or her little red pantyhose or her pink para, but it was too late. Para. Neighbors took her clothes and those of the adulterer. The stranger also ran for his clothes but found nothing. The neighbors caught the stranger first and tied his hands and feet with ropes. While they were doing this, the adulterer began to ask for mercy, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. The soldier's wife, Raja, also fell to her knees consciously, fully naked, and begged for her neighbors not to expose her. But the neighbors did not listen to her arguments. Everyone has seen the thick black pubic hair of her pussy and her big buttocks, and they all saw her breast, which looked like two swollen yellow or golden balls filled with water. Their nipples are large and black in color. Then the witnesses tied Raja's bare legs and hands with strong ropes. After the adulterer and the adulteress were forcibly subdued and bound, the neighbors telephoned the police authority. While waiting for the policemen to arrive, the guilty adulterers were forced to sit on the floor naked with their hands and feet bound. They were not even allowed to wear their underwear. Lots of people came in, used their iPads, cell phones, cameras, laptops, and took pictures of the naked man and naked woman. Even women and children were allowed to see the shameful act of adultery. It is considered the biggest sexual scandal that occurred in the capital city and perhaps all over Sudan. Some of the men called their distant friends and relatives and asked them to hurry to the alleged brothel house. Thus, the neighbors named the house of the imprisoned soldier Abbas after his unfaithful wife Raja had been caught in the shameful act of adultery. The police car came on an hour later. The commanding officer ordered his men to transfer the two suspects to the police van. The neighbors insisted that the adulterer and the adulteress should be taken to the police station without clothes and fully naked. However, the police officer refused to fulfill this immoral and inhuman request. Therefore, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali and Mrs. Raja Abbas were allowed to wear their clothes. When they were taken out, the street was crowded with many people. Some of the onlookers began to curse the soldier's wife with obscene words. They called her the unfaithful wife, the adulteress, the promiscuous woman, the daughter of a dog, the filthy bitch, the uncircumcised woman, the illegitimate daughter, the daughter of the haram, and many other abusive insults. The woman also cursed and insulted her in very derogatory terms and asked insulting questions such as, "How many dogs do you have to have sex with you? How many men have you had sex with you? Beating your dirty open pussy, and fuck you, your big cunt." Meanwhile, the small children, being instigated by their mothers, began to scream and say, "The adulterous wife and her adulterous man should be stoned to death. The adulterous man and the adulterous woman will go to hell and burn forever." Some of the boys in their teens began to touch the large ass and the big breasts of the soldier's wife. She still wears her short dress, which reveals her shoulders, boobs, thighs, hips, and large buttocks. With these indecent actions and insulting words, the famous politician at Al Gadarif city and the soldier's wife in Khartoum city were taken to the police station. When they reached the jail, the adulterers were separated. The soldier's wife was sent to the woman's jail and the great politician to the men's lockup room. When he was pushed into jail, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali felt out of place in Madinat Khartoum when he saw drunkards, thieves, murderers, and madmen inside a dark room. Whenever he visited the capital city in the past, the great politician used to spend his nights in luxurious hotels and his days in spacious meeting rooms. Some of these detainees were vomiting, some urinating, and some had blood on them, and some have a bad smell. The great politician stood near the door and closed his nose. The madmen came and shook hands with him. Thieves searched his pockets and removed everything they found from his pockets. All the evil old man's money that he gave him to give to his first wife Firdaus had been robbed. Actually, before his scandalous arrest, the thief politician had stolen half of the old man's money and decided to give the other half to his first wife. Now he was forcibly extracted from the stolen cash inside the small and dirty confinement room. One of the apprehended her killers slapped and kicked him for no specific reason. In that critical situation, the famous politician, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali, remembered the outside world and began crying bitterly. However, the evil man did not repent of what he had done to the so-called legitimate Muslim wife Intisar of his selfish son Hassan and her late sister Firdaus. This time, some neighbors who caught the soldier's wife, Raja, naked while having sex with a stranger insisted that the adulterous man and the adulterous woman should be sent to hospital for a DNA test. They understood understood that the Sharia court would reject their accusations without applying the threat method. They also knew that no man could prove adultery in such an implausible way. Which adulterer and adulteress in this world will wait for four witnesses to bring thread or a rope and pass it between their naked bodies? Only fools or dogs could remain unaffected when they were caught in the act of committing adultery. In in any event, the police authority accepted the neighbor's justification and sent the soldier's wife, Mrs. Raja, for a DNA test to prove or disprove her having committed adultery with a stranger. Moreover, the famous politician, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali, was also sent to the doctor and a sample of his semen was collected. After 2 DNA tests, the hospital proved with 99.9 accuracy that 99.9% accuracy that the two suspects had committed adultery. The testers found the semen of Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali inside the pussy of the adulterous wife, Raja Abbas. Based on this strong evidence that cannot be denied by any guilty man or suspected woman or refuted by any lawyer, the Sharia court in Khartoum later considered the case and sentenced the adulterous wife and the adulterous man to be stoned to death because both of them committed adultery while they were married to other husband and wife. Chapter 39. Adulterous wife in Khartoum has two husbands and two lovers. Meanwhile, the blessed Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk miraculously escaped from the cruel beating and brutal attack of the angry soldier Abbas. He may be the only man who escaped being slaughtered in an honored killing in a Muslim country. Like a dog with 7 lives, he seemed to be like his two evil comrades, the evil old man, Sayyid Usman al-Tayyib, and the notorious womanizer Hajj Muhammad. His face was disfigured and he suffered permanent damage. His beardless figure turned into a shade of black, just as a human face was scorched with caustic acid. He looks more brutal, uglier, and blacker than the scary Dracula, Mr. Daldum. He stayed in the intensive care unit of Khartoum General Hospital for over a week, battling with death while his evil spirit hung between hell and earth. After spending 15 days, most of them in the ICU, he was declared out of mortal danger and was soon released from the hospital. From the Khartoum General Hospital, the zombie man went directly to the Al Taysir bus station, heading to his city Al Gadarif, where he is appointed the Imam of the largest mosque in it. While traveling in the bus, his corrupted mind plunged into deep thought. He tried hard to find a solution to the mortal problem he faced in Khartoum city. What could be the cause of his suffering? First, he thought his comrade in crime might have tried to take revenge on him by giving him the wrong address. This possibility was somehow dismissed by him as extreme thinking. He knew that only a Muslim terrorist would do such evil to his fellow terrorists. Secondly, he saw that their evil enemies, Sami and his friends, might have put him in this trap. This possibility he also refused to accept because it could not be proven. Sadly, he thought his rich old friend might have given him a different address by mistake. It is likely that the old man had many wives, and due to his poor health in the hospital prison, he confused the addresses of his other secret wife and his new bride, Firdaus. This possibility is likewise dismissed as unlikely since Islam permits only 4 wives at a time. He knows that the rich old man has 3 wives in Gadarif city and a fourth wife in Khartoum city. Finally, the enraged Imam decided to confront his best friend, Mr. Osman al-Taib, and demand a justified explanation, or else their good friendship should end forever. While the angry religious leader is on his way back to his city, the imprisoned old man is thinking of his two friends. He expected the politician to return within 3 days, but 7 days passed without him returning. The great politician Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali also disappeared, just as the virtuous Imam Sheikh Marzouk before him disappeared. Neither messenger returned nor called him on the phone to explain his long delay. At first, the dirty old man saw that his two friends found his beautiful new bride to be a very gorgeous, hot, and sex-tempting wife, and so they both decided to stay with her and lust after her amazing beauty and sexy body. Perhaps they persuaded her to divorce him because he was too old and in prison. Then when this secret deal was done with three of them, they might have cast lots and found out who God had chosen to replace him as her new husband. Yet the old man dismissed this possibility as an impossible one. He told himself that the politician had only one wife, and if he wanted more women, Islam allowed him to add three teenage girls at once as halal wives for the fuck. Likewise, the blessed Imam can divorce his four wives in one day, and the next day he can marry a new group of four teenage and underage brides. But then he was puzzled by the unknown reasons why his faithful messengers had delayed their return, or had not called on phone, texted, or emailed him. So the old man faces a dilemma. Should he wait, or should he send his eldest son, Mustafa Osman al-Taib, to his new bride, Firdos? But he did not want to tell his son about his first wife because that would get him in trouble with his other three his other three rival wives and their sons, daughters, and grandchildren. While his corrupt and cunning mind is trying to find a solution to his dilemma, he is surprised to see his son Sami with his girlfriend Intisar, his best friend Salah, and the fairest innocent girl Muna. The four lovers stand before his bed like messengers of death. At first, he thought he was hallucinating, or his agitated mind was imagining the faces of his sworn enemies. But their angry faces assured him that they were real human beings and had come to attack him and beat him to death in his deathbed inside the hospital. As a result of his fear, the cowardly old man is about to rise to his feet and run for his precious life. But he discarded this idea when he remembered that he was very ill, with his right leg tied to the bed and his left leg in a large cast. His scary face changed from astonishment to great anger. His mind reminded him of the bitter prison experience. He held them responsible for his arrest and torture inside the interrogation room and the inhabited barracks number 13, where he got battered by the son of the devil, Kuku, with the shaitan, and his ruthless gang. So the vile old man opened his contemptible mouth and shouted at them, "What do you want from me, you adulterous boys and adulterous whores? Get out of here, you damning demons of death, before I call the cops and tell them to arrest you all." The lawyer Salah replied angrily, "The policemen are here to prevent you from escaping because you are a notorious criminal. The police's main duty to catch dangerous and criminals like you and your other evil friends. You bad boy, you turned my son's heart against me, and now you are bringing him and those two bitches to kill me. My father, shouts Sammy. No one can accuse innocent girls like Intisar Ambuno of being prostitute except for a lustful sheikh like you. The nails of these two girls are cleaner than your evil and dirty heart and the heart of your adulterous friends. My son Mustafa, the old man shouted, would you please call the two policemen sitting outside? Sammy says, these two policemen are guarding you and preventing you from escaping from prison. God has punished you for the evil that you did to my innocent sister Firdos, shouted Intisar. Firdos is my first wife. Firdos is my first Muslim wife, and I will never allow her to come to your house. She is now in my robes and will be my lawful wife forever. You are a bad girl and a dirty whore. When the old man said these words that Firdos is my first lawful Muslim wife, it so happened that his other three wives were standing at close distance and listening to the quarrel. Upon hearing the name of the first wife mentioned by their common polygamist husband, they rushed towards him like strong female warriors and joined the fray. What did you say, Osman? The three wives screamed in unison. I did not say anything. You said that Firdos is your first lawful Muslim wife, repeated the three wives. The old man says, I have no other wife but you three. I hear you with my own ears, says one of his three wives. You said to this strange girl, Firdos is my first legal Muslim wife. My wife Khadija, do not believe the words of this bad girl. She is the one who turned my son Sami against me and is now falsely accusing me of marrying her sister Firdos. Dear mom, please don't believe him, Sami said to his mother. He is lying to you. He had conducted the so-called legal Islamic marriage contract with Intisar sisters without her knowledge or consent. He used her half-brother, Omar the criminal, as her guardian, and his evil friend, Sheikh Marzouk, as an imam and Amazun. Then they forged her Islamic marriage to him as a forced wife without her consent. The lawyer Salah shouted. Then he resorted to the Sharia court to issue a verdict of obedience against her as a disobedient Muslim wife. And through 5 policemen, he kidnapped her from her home as his runaway wife and took her to his obedient house in Khartoum City. Osman, is what these 2 boys and the other girl said true? I can't stand another wife. My dear wife Maryam, do not believe these bad boys and girls. They are liars. Sami says, Father, I am ashamed of your hateful act and your lies. And I hate calling you my father. You are a kicking, shameless liar. Salah shouted with great anger that he is not only a liar, but also a cowardly and despicable old man. He is a murderer too, Intisar screamed. He killed my sister Firdos. What happened to my first wife Firdos? Who killed her? The old man asked in astonishment. You killed her, and you will be hanged to death for your heinous crime. My first wife Firdos is not dead. She's alive. She is my legal Muslim wife. She now lives in my rented house in Khartoum City with my private nurse Zakia and my bodyguard Harun. God set her free from you. She died and went to heaven, but you have to face the law for your heinous crime, Salah shouts. Intisar says in a very loud and angry voice that he should be hanged to death in a gallows for his heinous crime of kidnapping, raping, and brutally murdering my late innocent sister Firdos. Get out of here, you damning liars, shouted the outraged old man. Before we go, we want to tell you about your another piece of bad news regarding your secret wife Raja and her scandalous and sexual relations with your adulterous friend Sheikh Marzouk and Mahjoub al-Hilali, shouted the angry lawyer Salah. I don't have a wife with that name. Get out of here, you damning demons. Allow me to read this news in front of you, your three wives, sons, and daughters, which was published this morning in Sahafa newspaper in the capital city. An adulterous wife in Khartoum city who has two husbands and two lovers. According to a statement cited from a well-known Islamic religious authority in Khartoum city, a Muslim woman can only have one husband who is a Muslim like herself. However, in Al-Amarat area of the Triangle, capital city of Sudan, an adulterous woman was arrested yesterday because of her marriage to two men and her relationship with other two lovers at the same time. Both spouses claimed that they were legally married to her and had halal sex with her several times. The various husband presented a marriage certificate issued by Maulana Mahmoud Abdul Tawab from the Sharia court in Adbara city in northern region of Sudan. The marriage contract of the second husband was performed by Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, the Imam of the largest mosque in the city of Gadarif at the eastern region of Sudan. The first husband is a soldier in military unit service in Khartoum city, and the second is a wealthy business tycoon in Gadarif city. Through the neighbors, the first husband informed about the second spouse. When the first husband spied on his unfaithful wife, he discovered that she also has two other secret lovers. One of the two lovers was declared not guilty by the police for lack of evidence, but the other lover was arrested with her at home and in bed while both were fully naked and in the very act of committing adultery. This adulterer was named Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. He is a well-known politician in the city of Gadarif. The second lover is Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, who is the Imam of the largest mosque in eastern Sudan. The second husband, Mr. Osman al-Taib, is currently in Gadarif prison for his involvement in kidnapping, rape, and bribery crimes. The first husband is also in prison for slaughtering his wife's lover in an honor killing. His name is Abbas Abdel Gadir. The adulteress is called Raja Shukrallah. She is a very beautiful woman with a sexy body. According to some religious references, the matter is so serious that if proven true, it will result in a penalty of stoning to death for the woman and man caught together in the same act of adultery. The hospital staff, through DNA test, found the semen of the adulterous man, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali, inside the vagina of the disloyal wife, Mrs. Raja Shukrallah. Therefore, through DNA test, the crime of adultery has been proven with an accuracy of 99.9%. In addition, eyewitnesses submit to the police authority more than 200 pictures of the two adulterers who are completely naked and in the same act of committing a forbidden sexual relationship, which is considered obscene and abhorrent adultery. This abhorrent adultery took place on the bed of the first husband, the soldier Abbas. These are false accusations, the old man shouted angrily after hearing the article of the newspaper Al-Sahafa read by the recognized Sudanese lawyer Salah. This is another evil blood, the old geezer screams in rage. It is your evil scheme, Sami. I will take revenge on you and your wicked friend Salah. You are two adulterous villains who were filmed by my spy while you were kissing and fucking these two adulterous bitches in Khartoum city in public and broad daylight. Sami, Salah, and their two girlfriends, Intisar and Mona, did not bothered to defend themselves from his false accusations. After the shocking news is revealed, the four friends rush out of the private ward of the hospital and leave the outraged, imprisoned, evil old man to confront his three angry wives. The three fierce rival wives cursed their mutual polygamous husband with many dirty words and then let him boil his rage. Shortly after the departure of his three rival wives and many members of his band, his missing his spiritual leader, the virtuous Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, entered. The old man was unable to recognize his comrade in crime at first. Even though when Maulana started to speak, he recognized him by his voice. The old man could not believe his eyes at first. Thus he shook his head to awaken himself from a nightmare or a hallucination. But his spiritual friend's voice forced him to accept that he was neither dreaming nor imagining. He accepted the fact that the one he was talking to was none other than his spiritual leader and Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk. However, he saw that his evil friend, for some reason unknown to him, might be wearing a Halloween mask in order to scare him through trick or treat. The wealthy old man, through his many business trips to the West in Europe, he came to know it was a practice on Halloween where children in spooky costumes would go door to door through neighborhoods asking trick or treat. When opening the door to ask for rewards with implicit threat of playing tricks on those who refused to give them candy. But the old man asked himself how a good Muslim imam could believe in such an un-Islamic practice of Christian infidels in Western countries. Moreover, he heard that some people in the West said that the Halloween is the devil's birthday. So how does such a holy man of God, while he is the imam of a large mosque, wear a frightening mask and celebrate with the cursed infidels the birthday of Satan, the devil? Unless his aged Muslim friend and spiritual imam became an apostate from Islam, converted to Christianity, became a Catholic priest, or went insane, could he do such an abominable haram act? However, when Maulana Sheikh Marzouk approached him and sat beside him on his deathbed, the old man made sure that it was his real face and not a scary mask of Halloween. The sick prisoner wondered in astonishment how his religious and spiritual leader managed to move through society with such a brutal face without being mistaken by children for a demon, by women as a ghost, or by men as a Dracula. He thought it would be best to keep such a fearsome, monstrous face in secluded cell in a prison or a mental hospital, or to bury him in a grave outside the city. Mr. Osman al-Tayyib, shouted the scary Imam angrily. You beat me in big trouble. You almost got me killed in a horrific wife's honor killing. What happened to you, our blessed Imam? Did someone throw acid on your face and disfigure it? The old man asked with great amazement. I was brutally beaten and accused of adultery. An angry husband attacked me and almost beat me to death for the honor of his beautiful wife. It wasn't my fault. You must have gone to the wrong address. The address is quite correct, but your first wife Firdaus, was not staying there. My Muslim wife Firdaus is in paradise now, Maulana. There is no place called heaven in Khartoum. Then she is now in hell. I demand a justified explanation, Osman, or our good friendship will end now. My beloved wife Firdaus has passed away, O Maulana, and please do not add to my grief. Why didn't you tell me of her death before I left Gadaref city and traveled to Khartoum city? I just got the sad news from those bad boys and adulterous girls. They read me that bad news in today's newspaper. The problem now is not you and your scary, distorted face and my late wife Firdos, who died and is gone now forever, but rather the dilemma of our dear comrade, the famous politician Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. I hear he was caught in the act of fornication with that adulterous woman who claimed to be my wife. Do you mean the soldier's wife, Raja? Yes, she's the one who is called Mrs. Raja, Shukrallah, and her husband, Abbas Abdel Qadir. That military soldier and his prostitute wife are two demons in human forms. Most likely you have fallen into a trap created by my evil son Sabi and his cunning friend Salah and their adulterous girlfriends. Those boys and girls are the worst criminals in the whole world. Our honorable Imam, yes, I agree with you. They hired a beautiful prostitute and ambushed our good friend Haj Muhammad in his house. He committed adultery with her, and through that, he was caught red-handed by the police. Then his naked, erect dick and the horse hairy pussy appear in the tabloids. Now they did the same trick with you and with Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. They took explicit pictures of the great politician and the adulterous wife Raja while they were fully naked as on the day they were born. Yet they did that to our good righteous comrade. I know my son Sami is not that bad boy, but it is his evil friend Salah, the cunning lawyer who devised all those evil schemes and nailed all of you to acts of fornications. Yes, he's an evil genius. If you think he's an intelligent demon, then I am worse than him and his parents. I must destroy him and soon send him with his friend Sami and two of those street prostitutes to the prison, to either prison, graves, or hellfire. I will stand by your side and fight those adulterous boys and girls. My spiritual friend, Maulana, go now and bring me my dear son Mustafa. I have something very important to tell him. I must take revenge on those two bitches who came to me here today with their evil boyfriends and threatened my life. I will never let them escape the evil they have done to me and my three friends. I will make them pay dearly for it. The brutal-faced religious leader immediately left and returned shortly after, while the old man's son Mustafa followed behind. Chapter 40. The implementation of the second evil plot begins. When the scary diamond beast, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, returned with the elder son, the evil old man said angrily, "My beloved son Mustafa, everything written about me and my two good friends in that newspaper are just lies and vices. I don't have a wife with that name or those descriptions. My friends and I are victims of an insidious plot hatched by my bad boy Sami and his evil friend Salah. That is why we must take revenge on those four adulterers. I want them to understand that they cannot touch the lion and expect him to remain calm. This time I want revenge for the evils done to me and my three friends. I'm not going to the police, but I have a way of destroying them all. Before I do that, I want to separate Sami from that evil girl Intisar forever. For this reason, I want you to bring Hassan ibn Mahjoub al-Hilali to me now. I'll bring him my father." Then Mustafa left the hospital and went to contact the so-called legitimate husband of Intisar. Maulana, the old man said, I want you to help Hassan file a complaint with the Sharia court regarding his legal Muslim wife Intisar. Don't be afraid of these bad boys and adulterous girls anymore. I hear that her lesbian sister Farida is back in Abu Dhabi, so she has no one left to protect her but her old mother Sarah. Regarding my bad son Sami and his evil friend Salah, I will ask some powerful gangster to punish them. My eldest son Mustafa knows them and will have them soon. I want to hear that the Sharia court issued a judgment of the verdict of obedience against the disobedient Muslim wife Intisar, and that the police took her to the house of obedience to her legal husband Hassan. I will do that when the legal husband Hassan comes, the Imam said in anger. Maulana, I want you to stand by my eldest son Mustafa and fight against these bad boys. I trust my son Mustafa and know he can do the job. I'll do that soon, God willing. Do not forget to avenge the heinous crime that was committed against your holy face. Never allow Hassan Mahjoub al-Hilali to back down or let down the complaint. Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir is his legal Muslim wife. He, he did neither kidnap her from her house nor force her guardian Umar to marry her to him. He married her according to the Holy Book of Allah, the gracious Quran, and the blessed Sunnah of our infallible Prophet Muhammad. May God bless him and grant him peace. Therefore, her lawful husband Hassan must soon bring her through the police to his house of obedience and consummate his marriage to her. Whether she agrees or not, he must fuck her pussy by his dick and makes her pregnant by his baby. I repeat, he must banish her with his big stick, discipline her with his long whip, humiliate her adulterous pussy with a erect cock, and impregnate her with his child as soon as she reaches his house. I swear by Almighty God and by divorcing my four wives, I will stand by Mustafa and Hassan and turn the lives of those two evil lovers and their adulterous girlfriends into an unbearable living hell. When the two criminal friends renewed their vow to take revenge on their enemies, shortly after the son Mustafa came, followed by the alleged husband of Intisar Hassan and his father's secretary Karrar, the man of wonders. Hello, my dear son Hassan. I'm glad to see your face. Thank you, Uncle Usman. Did you read in the newspapers what happened to your father? Yes, I read it and feel ashamed of it. Don't talk like that, my son. Your father is a human being. Every man in his position would have fallen into the same trap. The problem now is not what your father did, but what our enemies did to him. It was an evil plot hatched by those bums. They didn't do it for your dad alone. Even this eminent Imam, Maulana Mubarak Sheikh Marzouk, suffered the same evil. Look what they did to his righteous face. Damning from the pure face of an angel, they turned it into the face of a demon. How did they do that to him? Those adulterous boys and adulterous girls hire a hooker or a bed a prostitute much money and made her commit abominable fornication with your good father. They did the same insidious trick with the mighty witch doctor Haj Muhammad and made him commit adultery with a whore in his house and thus sent him behind bars forever. They have set your father up for a great crime of adultery, and if you are not careful, you will soon fall into the same trap. You are the only one among us who has not been wronged by these bad guys yet. I already warn you, my honorable son Mustafa and this blessed Imam will stand beside you. But Uncle Osman, my father's name and political reputation have been destroyed forever. I know your father committed adultery with someone's wife, but this is just one mistake. Why don't people remember the good deeds he did for the poor, the needy, the downtrodden, and the homeless who were homeless in this city? Do you call that justice? I don't call it justice, but my Uncle Osman, you know human natures. Because of one mistake you made, they will forget everything good you did for them. They will know you, call you, and name you with this one bug forever. Now my father will be called an adulterous politician, and the opposition parties will raise a great case of jinni against him. Yes, I know that your father, who was the great politician in this city, has fallen forever. But what about his enemies? Are you going to keep quiet and wait for those evil friends to ruin your life too? They can't destroy my life. Why can't they? Are you greater than your seasoned political father or this blessed Maulana who is a righteous religious leader? Or are you wiser and meaner than me, the biggest business tycoon in Sudan? Or more dangerous and evil than the might wish Dr. Haj Muhammad? You are nothing compared to us. With all our political, religious, financial, and magical powers, they manage to harm us. You don't have any of these great social powers, and you are still bragging. My poor son Hassan, humble yourself and do not brag in vain, and listen to my advice. What is your advice? Take your lawful Muslim wife intisar from those bad guys. How could I take her from them? Are you a man or a woman? Of course, I am a man and the son of a man. So, how can you allow another man to take your wife from you and enjoy every day and night her bewitching beauty and sexy body as if she was his wife? If I were you, I would kill anyone who dares touch my wife's finger. But it is not wise for me to go to the Sharia court as you did first and ask my wife Intisar to come to my house by law. Yes, this is the first step, but you have to protect her when she comes to live with you in your house. How do you want me to protect her? Don't let her escape from you or let someone else take her from you. You mean to say, sir? Wonderman Fatah Karas says, should Hassan lock Intisar up in his house like a wild animal or a mad woman? You foolish man, have you not read the hadith of our Holy Prophet Muhammad in which he says, the woman is awra. When a woman leaves her home, the devil possesses her, and thus the damning Satan becomes her host? Yes, I have read this hadith, but as an Arab boy said, women are devils created for us, and we seek refuge in Allah from the cunning of these beautiful devils. They are the groans of beauty, sex, and pleasure to us. As a wise woman said, men are shoes, but we women cannot walk without our shoes on. Yet we men cannot live without them. From the fall of Adam in the Garden of Eden until the fall of Sayyid Mahjoub al-Hilali in the capital of Sudan, foolish men have been deceived by beautiful women. Some disobeyed God like Adam. Some became insane like Qais with Layla, and others like you, the wealthy business man Mr. Osman Taib, the mighty wish Dr. Haj Muhammad, and my great political boss, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. All of you have landed behind bars because of beautiful women. Shut up, you stupid idiot, the old man shouted angrily. Who asked you to tell us what you think? I didn't go to jail because of a pretty woman. If men go to jail because of women, you should be the first to enter the dungeon because you worship women. Yes, sir, I admit that sometimes I love women more than I love God and his messenger Muhammad, but I have not yet reached the peak of worshipping them. I declare myself today a misogynist. I hate all women. They have taken my son Sami, my peace of mind, my freedom, and my dearest best friends. Sir, I would rather die than hate Brit woman. I love Eve. I love her voice, her eyes, her thighs, her hips, her cheeks, her big buttocks, her boobs, her light ass, her hairy pussy, and the rest of her delicate body. I wish to have sex with her day and night and forever. Shut up! Enough is enough. What is wrong with this womanizer man? Why did you bring this sex freak with you, Hassan? He's a sex addict and a notorious womanizer. Hassan says he came to visit you in the hospital. I would rather have the angel of death come out of hell and visit me in this damning hospital than this man who is obsessed with sex and women. Please calm down, my friend, Mr. Osman Al-Taib, and let us forget Mr. Fattah Karrar, says Maulana. Please tell us what your plan is. My plan is to get as soon as possible your wife Intisar. She must be brought to Hassan's house. My son Mustafa will bring the gangster who will be her guards. They are dangerous criminals and they are not afraid of the law nor of a human being. Is this plan clear? Yes, they said Hassan and Mustafa in unison. Hassan, as soon as Intisar is brought to your home by the police, you must force her to sleep with you. Remember that the law in this country will not convict a husband of raping his legal Muslim wife. Nor does the Islamic religion prevent a man from forcibly raping his wife. Am I right, our Honorable Maulana Sheikh Marzouk? There is nothing in Islam called wife rape if the man who raped her was her legal Muslim husband. Our Sharia law and our religion of Islam allow the husband to beat his rebellious wife and take her to his bed by force if she refuses to give him what God has given him. This right is mentioned in the Holy Quran in Surah An-Nisa 4, verse 34. Wise advice and good religious information, our blessed Imam. Therefore, our virtuous Maulana, you must help Hassan file his complaint against his disobedient and rebellious Muslim wife Intisar in the Sharia court. We'll present it tomorrow morning, God willing. Then go, comrades, and may God Almighty, His noble Prophet Muhammad, and His mighty angels be with you all wherever you go. Ameen, Lord of the worlds, says Maulana. Ameen, Lord of the worlds, Hassan, Mustafa, and Fattah Karrar chanted behind their Imam in unison. Then the so-called legitimate husband, Muslim husband of the alleged disobedient Muslim wife Intisar came out of the hospital ward, followed by the newly appointed conspirators, Maulana, Mustafa, and Fattah. Meanwhile, since the day her sister Farida left Sudan and returned to her job in Abu Dhabi, her sister Firdos got raped and brutally killed by her brother Osman, got killed, and her brother Osman died by suicide. The said innocent girl Intisar has been living in extreme fear and terror. She felt that she had no one to protect her but her own mother Sarah. Although she loves Sami, she does not trust him to protect her alone. She meets him often without her mother's knowledge in Salah's house, and also they meet secretly at Badriya's grandmother's house. They tried many times to find a safe haven to escape from their painful circumstances and their intractable problem, but they found that their problem had no solution. Yet they continued their love affair without knowing where it would lead them. When she is alone in her house, Intisar spends her time thinking about her soulmate Sami and their future as husband and wife. One night she built castles of hopes for the petition in her imagination. She imagined herself married to Sami, and her imagination took her to a honeymoon with him in a far secular Western country. There, they settled as persecuted refugees who supported their settlement in the West. Then they built their beautiful castle and they lived happily ever after. In their love nest and their new happy life, the two lovers forgot all their past problems and their evil former enemies. Then they got married and had a happy life in the country of Christian infidels and Western atheists. The happy wife became pregnant and gave birth to children with her beloved husband. They had four beautiful and sweet children, two boys and two girls. She chose the names for her two daughters, and Sami named their two sons. She named the first daughter Habiba and the second Hanan. Habiba represents her intense love for Sami, and Hanan symbolized their happy married life. Sami gave his first son the name Muntasir and his second son Khalid. The first signifies that their sincere and strong love has triumphed, and the second represents their eternal love. When her imagination reached this limit, Al Habib Intisar took out a sketchbook and drew a picture of her four children. Then she went to bed that night very happy. When she woke up the next morning, she was very anxious to meet Al Habib Sami in the evening and to show him the picture of their four children. And because she knows that she will not be able to meet Sami until that evening, she decides to stay in bed. Her mother Sarah had already fallen asleep. She heard the man who sold the milk to them knock on the door with his stick, handed the milk to her mother, and walked away. Then he came after him, a man selling vegetables, and gave tomatoes, lemons, onions, and other vegetables to the mother. Lastly, the bossman came. The bossman rarely comes to their house. Whenever he comes, the mother will wake one of her daughters and ask her to read the letter. Intisar's mother cannot read or write because during her childhood and adulthood, Muslim girls were not allowed to go to school. So most Muslim women of her age are illiterate and completely ignorant. Accordingly, Intisar expected that her mother would come at any time and wake her up. She pretended to be still asleep when she heard her mother's footsteps approaching her room. Intisar woke up, please, and tell me what is written in this letter, the mother says to her sleeping daughter. When Intisar did not respond, the mother shook her leg. The sleepy daughter opened her eyes and covered them again. Her weary body turned to the other side. When the mother saw her daughter hugging and pressing the pillow on her chest with tenderness as if it was her lover Sami, she snatched it from her. How long do you want to sleep, you Mahjub al-Kaslana, or the lazy veiled one? It is 9 o'clock already. Please, ma'am, let me sleep. I went to bed late last night. Who told you to read your textbook all night last night? Just read this letter to me and sleep again. Well, ma'am, I'll read it to you and then go to sleep. Usually, every letter comes from her older sister Farida in Abu Dhabi. Intisar took the letter from her mother's hand and looked at, at its address. She was surprised to see that the letter had been addressed to her. Fear filled her heart, and her beautiful eyes opened wide. Then, with a heart beating loudly, she quickly sat on the bed and looked at her mother's face. In astonishment, the mother looked at her. Intisar opened the envelope while her hands were shaking and her body was sweating. Then she began to read the letter. To Mrs. Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, Dear Madam, I hereby to inform you that you have been invited to appear before the Blessed Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha, Judge of the Sharia Court in Gadarif City, on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. in the main building of Gadarif Court. Failure to attend your trial will promote Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha, the Judge of the Sharia Court, and his aides to issue the judgment of God and His Messenger upon you in your absence. From the Registrar of Marriage and Divorce, written and signed by Mr. Mahmoud Atiyatullah. When she read the contents of the official letter, Intisar's mind stopped working for a while. Her heart stopped beating for a few seconds. Her body was shaking violently, and she was perspiring from head to her feet. She opened her eyes for a moment and then lost consciousness and fell from her bed on the hard floor and became like a dead body. The mother became frightened and restless, so she started screaming loudly and saying without interruption or stopping for one moment, My beloved daughter is dead. My daughter Intisar is dead.